Next speaker is Michael Rotondi. In the format of speakers at graduation, in the tradition of non-tradition at SCI-Arc, we've typically had an alum either recently graduated or in the distant era. And today we have a speaker who probably covers almost all of the venues that are plausible for someone who's been involved with SCI-Arc over the years. He's a graduate of SCI-Arc, still on the faculty at SCI-Arc, was a director of SCI-Arc, and continues to teach today. Please welcome Michael Rotondi.
Mr. Hand. That was good, Jeff. Ohio State, where is that?
The state that decides the future every year.
They play football.
If Ohio State gives us somebody like Jeff, then I'd say Ohio is a pretty great place. So, the one thing I was, when you see, I've seen a lot of graduations. I've been in one, and I've seen 38 other ones. This will be the 39th. And when you see everybody cleaned up, it belies one of the truths of the place, is that when you see everybody walking around this place, there's such an odd assortment of people that SCI-Arc has attracted, which has always been the case. The real testament that SCI-Arc is a wonderful place is that everybody looks normal here, even especially during the school year. So I'm supposed to encourage all of you to stay involved with the alumni, and I'll do that in a kind of indirect way. When Eric asked me to do this, he said, what are you going to talk about? And I said, the upside of evolution. Now and then. So good afternoon to, I'm Michael Rotondi, also AKA Roto. That's what the students call me. Parents, relatives, colleagues, all of the wonderful faculty and Director Moss and the Board of Trustees that are here, and especially the class of 2012, the 40th graduating class. Congratulations. I represent the first graduating class in 1973. When I write that down, I was thinking there's probably some parents that weren't even born then. You would have had to have kids very young. There was 10 of us in that class, and as we grade on the curve, we were all in the top 10. So I've always been proud of that. Actually, we didn't get a degree. We got a certificate of completion, which I've always cherished. And what it was a caricature that Bill Simonian drew of us and our project. You know, so it was like big head, little body, which was normal to me because I've always had a big head and a little body. My head when I was born was the same size, actually. So I've been here for 40 years in every capacity, as a student, as a teacher, and then as a director, and then a trustee, and I think most importantly, as a family member. Throughout, I've been a witness to a form of creation itself, a collective organism conceived at the epicenter where the counterproductive force of anger transforms into generative power of creativity. Although it began as a revolution, I still believe to this day that SCI-Arc was a love child. I'm often asked, how do you compare now and then? And I think to myself, then is still now genetically. It's a long story with a simple answer from my point of view. Embodied in this class, without a doubt in my mind, this is definitely the upside of evolution. A bit of the backstory. What I learned growing up in a large Italian immigrant family, being the youngest, is that everybody was right from their point of view. So this is my point of view. The problem was, in an Italian family especially, we're all so stubborn, you don't negotiate to the middle. I did. I learned how to do that. So the backstory in perspective. SCI-Arc's existence was as inevitable as the context from which it emerged. It exists because of you and all that have come before. To put it in perspective, I'll go back a ways. This can be understood as fact, but it's really a metaphor. The trajectory. 4.6 billion years ago, planet Earth formed and soon became a place of more complicated processes that led to life in all its forms. Humankind added another level of complexity in behavior 250,000 years ago, when our use of language and other symbols began to introduce a new capacity for collective learning. Knowledge and skills accumulated non-genetically from generation to generation. Collective learning gave us a history, making it possible for us to learn more, faster, while in proximity to others. Collective learning shapes the evolution of human societies. Over time, humans became highly networked and interdependent creatures. In numbers, we became a learning organism. Still true. Symbolic language became a memory system, a kind of external hard drive, if you will. Human societies marked a sudden and unexpected emergence of a new level of complexity. 40 years ago, an even more unexpected evolutionary event took place, the emergence of SCI-Arc, adding an even greater level of complexity to the universe. A protein organism emerged. It was like a cloud with a core, always adapting to a changing world and conserving its identity and its integrity. Change and conservation, you can't have one without the other. At that time, it was also a period of turmoil, but it was a time of boundless optimism, extreme motivation, intense conflict, great learning, and immense fun. Our comfort has always been in proportion to uncertainty. This is the way for creative types. The past is still the present. SCI-Arc became a new laboratory in many ways, becoming both a social and an educational experiment. Students and faculty worked long and productive hours, exploring a wide range of ideas and strategies to implement them. We worked like kids experimenting in a garage, taking risks without fear of failure. Our method was defined as trial and error. If we hit a dead end, we turned back to the fork in the road and went in another direction. For the first time, we had discovered a life for ourselves. There is no other place we wanted to be. Without realizing it, we were already on a trajectory that was preparing us for the high adventure of creating our own world within the world beyond. All of us with the great fortune to be present here at the beginning, and now, all of you, have been a witness to and a participant in a life being born and reborn, standing erect, growing to maturity and taking its place in the world, not merely responding and adapting to its environment, as Darwin might say, but defining its own world within worlds, constructing its own environment, always believing that anything imaginable is possible, even realizing that there was still an advantage to being young and naive. An ethos began to take shape, one that intuitively understood that cooperation is biological necessity, one that believed in the good, knowing what good meant resulted naturally in doing it, and what is truly good is best for all, Socrates had argued. In the moment of reflection, we would ask the same question you ask now. Why are we doing this? What will we achieve? What will our return on investment be? What are the guarantees for success? We had no definitive answers then, and there aren't any now to these questions. But the one thing we knew, it was in our hearts, it was the right thing to do. This is faith, believing when it is beyond the power of reason to believe. As your faith is strengthened, you'll find that there is no longer need to have a sense of control, that things will flow as they will, and you will flow with them to a great delight and benefit. Faith is to believe what you don't see. The reward ultimately is to see what you believe, St. Augustine said. At this moment and in these times, the bad news will become the good news if you sustain the courage that kept you searching all year for the answer your teachers often asked you, what is your thesis? And if you sustain your faith in the promise of architecture, you'll be there. What we've seen year after year, and especially now in the 40th year, bearing witness to the extraordinary work of this graduating class of 2012, presented both in May and currently on the walls in there. Much has changed and nothing has changed. The original ethos is operating at a higher level. You graduates are SCI-Arc. You graduates are both the parent and the child of SCI-Arc. Perhaps we're the only ones that understand what this means, but I believe it to be true. SCI-Arc lives because all of you. So now it's time for all of you to go into the world with the aspirations that you grew here. And please call home once in a while and continue to make your family as proud as we are at this moment. So with love and admiration, I wish you all well. Thank you.